What's up, Tanya's Turds? It's Turds Day.
Oh my gosh, and today I'm doing makeup on my butt. That's a funny video.
Like that you're making up on the spot, or that somebody actually put makeup on the butt?
You can do.
I am not putting makeup on my butt. Alright, because Savannah always calls you guys poopies, she decided that she's gonna call y'all Tanya's Turds. Oh, anyway, this is gonna be the dumbest video ever. Alright, so today I decided I thought it would be fun to do a video where I talk about some of my ghost experiences. I've had a lot of paranormal things happen to me in my life, and so instead of just sitting here looking at the camera and telling the stories, I thought I'd do some makeup while I'm telling the stories, so I'm not just sitting here looking at the camera telling a story. So, and just in case you notice this while I'm doing my makeup, I'm a very kind of low maintenance kind of person, and 3 days ago I painted my nails, and I still haven't done this hand yet. So, the first story that I'm going to tell you about happened when I was about 8 years old. When I was 8, the church that my mom and I went to had a Sunday school downstairs in the basement, and I was down there in my class, and it was towards the end of the class. We were all sitting as a class facing forwards in chairs, facing the teacher. Behind where the teacher was, there was the exit where our parents would come pick us up at. And that door had like little windows on it, so you could see if someone was coming in or leaving. And so I'm facing the teacher, and I can see out of the corner of my eye that exit door, which means if I could see the door, if somebody was standing on the other side of that door looking in, they could see all of us. While I was listening to the teacher, during the very last part of her, whatever she was talking about, out of nowhere, a bright light appeared behind her. That light started to get bigger and bigger. Like it started out with just it was like a bright light that started out just around the shape of her body. And then it got bigger and bigger, and then it went farther behind her. And then all of a sudden it had its own shape, and it was farther behind her, and it was all bright white, and it was an angel. I saw an actual angel. It was very big. You could see the wings, and you could see like the halo, but it had no details in the face. There was no face details. There was no body. There's no details. It was just the shape and a bright light, and you could see the wings and everything, but there was no specific details. But it was an angel. I was about 8 or 9 years old when this happened. I had no reason to make this story up. I had no reason to think anything about it. It was just happening while I was sitting down there talking or listening to the teacher. And while this is happening, I apparently was sitting there in total shock with my face like this. And I know that because my mom had come down the stairs to come get me out of the class. At the end of class, she could see through the window of the door and saw my face just like that. And after I left the class and we went out to the parking lot, she asked me, what was the teacher talking about? What was so shocking or whatever? And I told her what I saw, and she believed me right away. She didn't question it. She thought that was amazing. And then later that afternoon, she called my Sunday school teacher and told her about my experience. And what made it so amazing was, and even more real for me, was the fact that the teacher told my mom on the phone that entire week she had been privately praying for one of the kids in her class to experience something really special. She didn't pray for anything specific. She just was praying for one of her students to have an experience, a really wonderful, beautiful experience. That's what she told my mom. And then she said, and it just so happened that it was your daughter who got to experience that. And then my mom told me what the teacher said, and that stuck with me for the last 30 years. That experience was the most real, amazing, beautiful thing that I think has ever happened to me, especially in the supernatural world. I can see it even in my mind today, as clear as day. I remember it perfectly. That was one of the best things, the best experiences I've ever had. It was so wonderful. The second experience that I had, not the second experience I've ever had in my life, but the second one I'm going to talk about, was the complete opposite of the angel experience. Sorry, I'm not used to doing makeup in the kitchen, so the lighting is weird and everything is just different, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm also doing my makeup for no reason. I'm not going anywhere. We're in quarantine still. So the next one I'm talking about is the complete opposite of an angel. I know without a doubt that I saw a legit demon. And just as a backstory, really quick, I'm the kind of person who, I've had a lot of supernatural experiences in my life, a lot of different kinds, but I don't really believe in ghosts. Which I guess that sounds weird. I don't know how to explain that. I don't believe in ghosts because I grew up a Christian. So I believe in God and the devil. I believe in heaven and hell. I believe in good and evil. But I just can't get myself to believe that God would allow people to die and then get stuck on earth as a ghost. That's what I was raised to believe. That is what I believe. And I just don't believe that God allows people to be stuck in a weird parallel universe here on earth to haunt people. I just don't believe that. So anything that I've ever experienced, I've never once thought, well, this is a ghost and this is somebody that died and now they're haunting me. That thought has never crossed my mind because I don't believe that. I believe that if something is around me, that most of the time it's evil. That's how I think. That's what I believe. Except for the story about the angel in the church, I know that that was not an evil thing. But everything else that I experience is, to me, evil. So, that being said, my next story happened when I was 16 years old, and my mom had just gotten remarried. So we moved into her new husband's house with him. I had my own bedroom, and I was sitting on my bed, minding my own business, and I saw this huge, huge black mass, like it was massive, float down the hallway and turn into my bedroom. Because the way the bed was laid out, you could, like, here's the door, but you could see it slightly down the hallway a little bit. So I saw it float down the hallway, turn into my bedroom, and then float right above me. It just was right above me. It had no shape. It had nothing. It was just black. And it was just like this. It had no one certain shape. And immediately in my head, I knew this is a demon. This is evil. And it scared me. And I don't get scared easily. So the first, my only reaction that I could do was to shut my eyes and start praying. And that's what I did. So I shut my eyes and I started praying, and maybe 30 seconds later, I opened my eyes and I saw it leave, and it went away. And that was that. That was that experience. It was really scary. Some months went by, and in that same house still, I was in the kitchen with my mom, and I decided to tell her. I don't remember why, but just I decided I'm going to tell Mom what I saw. So I told her the story, and she looked so shocked. And it wasn't because of the story, like what I saw. It was because she saw the same thing in that same house and never told anyone. And it scared her too. And she just never told anyone about it. And I saw it, and then I never told anyone about it until that day. And we were comparing stories, and we both saw the exact same thing. She had seen it like 2 or 3 different times, and I only saw it that one time. But I'll never forget it, and I'll never forget that fear that I felt. Because I'd never felt that much fear in a paranormal type thing. Like, paranormal things are creepy. They creep me out and stuff, but that fear was totally different. So those are my biggest good versus evil ghost stories, or paranormal stories, or supernatural, whatever you want to call it. Everyone has a different thing that they call it. Those were the 2 that stood out the most as far as being able so clearly to see what was in front of me, as if it was just an actual physical thing right there. Because honestly, it was just, I saw it plain as day. A lot of my other stories are more like I had a feeling or I heard something, but those were 2 that were more like I know what I saw. Also, just so you guys know, I am not a beauty expert, so don't make fun of me. Now, I have a couple smaller stories that I'm just gonna throw in here too. They weren't big, major stories like the seeing an angel and seeing a demon. These were much smaller. But here's the thing that's the weirdest part. I thought, oh, I must live in a haunted house. Like when I was younger, I was like, oh, I live in a haunted house. But I've had experiences in just about every house I've ever lived in. So then that made me think it's me. Like, this stuff follows me around. And then I spoke to someone one day who told me, because I'm Native American, and Native Americans, I've heard, they have like a sixth sense more than, a lot of people, and they feel things, and they're more open to that sort of thing. So I was told by this lady, who's also a Native American, that since we're more sensitive and more open to like the sixth sense and things like that, we are more open to being able to see, hear, experience, whatever, these types of things. So I felt like that makes sense to me. So that's just kind of, I guess, what I choose to believe. That this stuff follows me around just because I'm more open to it. But even though I have a lot of stories, I am also the biggest skeptic you will meet. I don't believe everything I see. I don't believe everything I hear. Most of the time, if somebody tells a ghost story, I don't believe them right off the bat. Like, you have to convince me that it happened to you. Because I look at logical explanations for everything. And so even in my own stories, I will try to find a logical explanation for anything that I just experienced. And if I can figure something out that could be logical, then I just throw it away like, okay, it could have been that, so I'm just gonna let it go. But sometimes I can't figure anything out that would be logical. So then I'm left with, this was supernatural because there's no other explanation. So I'm skeptical of my own stories too. I'm skeptical all the time of everything. So, that being said, I would have experiences in most of the houses I ever lived in. There was a time when, for about a year, I lived in a house with my dad. It was a bi-level, but I didn't live there full time. I only was with him like every other weekend. But even though I was only there every other weekend, I still had experiences. And I wasn't the only one who had experiences in that house. So it wasn't just me. There were times when my sister would be there by herself, and she swore up and down she heard someone come through the door and walk upstairs. She thought it was my dad, so she called out to him, "Dad." And he wasn't there. It wasn't him. There was nothing. There was nobody. So that was one of her experiences there. One of my dad's experiences there was, and this wasn't just him, I think all of us experienced this one. In the middle of the night, we would hear someone walk into the kitchen, open a cabinet, take a glass out, because you can hear the clinking of a glass. You know what that sounds like. Take a glass out, and then turn on the faucet like they're getting a drink of water or a cup of water. The only people in the house were me, and during that time, I was between the ages of like 14 and 16, maybe. So there was me, there was my dad, his girlfriend, and her son, who was only maybe around 6 or 7 at the time. So he wouldn't get up in the middle of the night and get a glass of water. He couldn't even reach the cabinet. And my dad knew that it wasn't him, and it wasn't his girlfriend, and I never even got up in the middle of the night. I was a teenager, slept all night. So it was none of us. None of us ever got up to get a drink of water in the middle of the night. But yet we all still heard somebody go in the kitchen and get a glass of water. And this happened numerous times. It wasn't just once. So that was weird. Another one from that same house is, okay, so the way the house was set up, the kitchen was really tiny. And we were all sitting around the kitchen table eating dinner. And where I was sitting, right behind me was just a wall. And there was a window there, but the window wasn't open. Nothing was open. There's a wall, a window, and then right next to the window was a house phone with the kind with like a cord, the old school. That was there. And there were 4 or 5 of us, I think, sitting around the table eating. There was no windows open. There was no doors open. There was nothing. There was no fan on. Nothing. Not that any of that would even matter. But in the middle of eating dinner, the phone that was on the wall right behind me, that cord lifted off the wall, whipped right by my head, and landed back against the wall again. Now, if that had been a window or a fan or a door or something open, that wouldn't even be strong enough to do that to a phone cord. But none of that was open anyway, so there was no wind. There was nothing. That phone cord did it by itself. Now, since it was behind me, I didn't see it, but I felt the whip of it. And directly in front of me was my dad's girlfriend, and she saw it happen, and her face was like that. It freaked her out. That was a really crazy one. That would be it for, I guess, that house. Here in this house that I live in now, I've had a lot of experiences. There's really no big story that I can just say, oh, well, this is one big thing that happened here. I don't really have anything like that. I just have a whole bunch of similar things that happen to me a lot. And the weirdest part to me is that the only time they ever happen is when I'm here by myself. They never happen ever if somebody else is here. It's only if I'm here by myself. And those are just things like I could hear whispers in my ear. Or I might be standing at the sink washing dishes and I would feel someone like tug on my shirt, but like on the bottom of my shirt, like it's a kid like tugging down, trying to get your attention, but I would be the only one here. And there was nothing like, my shirt wasn't snagging on anything. There was nothing behind me. It wasn't an animal. It was nothing, is what it was. It was nothing. But stuff like that would happen a lot. So those were always weird. Those would always get my attention. Like, wow, that's kind of creepy. There was another story that this one didn't happen to me personally, but it happened in this house. I had a friend who was staying here for a few months. And she was sleeping in my spare bedroom. And one morning, she woke up to a little boy standing next to her bed, staring at her. And at that time, I do have 2 kids, okay? But I only had a daughter who was, let's see, 5 or 6 at the time. You would never mistake her for a boy. And my son was a baby. He was 1, so it couldn't have been him anyway. But she woke up and she saw a boy standing there staring at her. And so she asked me about it when she got up, and I was like, well, what do you mean? There's nobody here. And she's like, well, there was someone here in this room staring at me. So that's something that she experienced. So that was kind of weird. The last one I'm going to talk about is by far the craziest one. This one, I can't say, oh, this happened to me personally, because I wasn't actually physically there when it happened, but I'll just have to explain it to you so you can understand. So this happened at my mom's house, a house that I did used to live in as a teenager, but when this happened, I didn't live there anymore. And I have a little sister. She's 16 years younger than I am. So I was probably in my late 20s, and she might have been around 12 or so when this happened. And she was sitting in front of her webcam in her bedroom, and I think she had just done something different with her hair. So she was just taking a whole series of pictures of her new hair, just one right after the other, and showing it off and making little faces and whatever. And she would snap it, post it, snap it, post it, snap it, post it immediately. And so as she's doing that, I was on the social media site and I was watching her just post them one right after the other as it was happening. And like 3 or 4 pictures in, suddenly something was different. And I have the picture, and I'll put it in here. It's creepy. So if this stuff scares you, I'm not kidding. Don't look at this picture. It's really scary. But I'll put it in here so you can see what I'm talking about. So she had posted about 3 or 4 of these pictures, and I was kind of hitting like on them and commenting like, oh, that looks cute, whatever. And then she posted the next one, and it was the one that was very different. And all of a sudden, I messaged her and I was like, who's in your room with you? And she said, no one. And I said, look at the picture. There's someone right behind you. And she said, there's no one here. The only person that was even in the house with her was my mom. And she was in a totally different area of the house, a totally different room, and looks nothing like the person in the picture. My mom is this tiny little 5'3" woman with long blonde hair, and she's real tiny. In this picture, you see like an evil demon woman with dark hair. Like, it's scary, and it's plain as day. And we we even sent this picture off to like professionals just to see, could this photo have been faked? Is there any explanation for why it looks like someone is standing right behind her? It's not a shadow. It's not just a outline of a person. It's nothing like that. It is a full-on detailed person. But when you zoom in and look at different aspects of the picture, there are things that stand out that were really scary. Like the fact that it looked like she had razor sharp teeth and, you know, all these little things. She was all dark. I mean, it's so scary. But yeah, that freaked her out. Now don't forget, she was taking a series of photos in a row and posting them one right after the other. So she posted that one, and then she posted like 3 or 4 more after it immediately. And that was the only photo that showed up with this thing standing right behind her. And it's really scary. I mean, we even had so many experts look at this picture, and there was no way that it was faked. It just is what it is. And afterwards, they started noticing weird things in that same bedroom. Like, my sister and my mom had both heard a growl in that room. And then another day, my sister heard like a growl, and then all of a sudden she ran out of the room and had like claw marks on her skin. Something scratched her in that room. Also, my mom had a dog, a little Maltipoo. That dog wouldn't go in that room for a while. Just would not go in there. And I would always get a weird feeling around it. So that room. So all of that put together during that weird time frame, it was too much to be a coincidence. It was so scary. And I've seen lots of like ghost type shows or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, look at this picture. Look how crazy this picture is. It's so real. It's so crazy." And they're never as crazy as the picture I have. They don't even come close. They don't even compare. But I can promise you that it's not a fake photo. That's what I know. In that same house that my mom, that I was telling you about, my sister took the picture and whatever. They still live in that house to this day. But that house has had some crazy thing. Oop, I just screwed that up. We've had all kinds of weird things happen in that house ever since that photo happened. But there's one it's fun. There's one that's funny. I was there by myself one day with just my little sister, and she was a teenager. I was in my 20s or early 30s or something. And we're just hanging out. And out of nowhere, we heard... There's no way to describe really what it sounded like, other than the fact that it sounded like a very loud sneeze. I don't know how else to describe it. That's what it sounded like. But it didn't sound like a human sneeze. That's the weird part. It sounded like loud as if a machine made a noise. Like, it was very loud. And the reason why it became a joke and funny is because as soon as we heard that noise, I looked at my sister and I was like, did the house just sneeze? Because that's what it sounded like. There was really no other way to describe it. I didn't know how to describe that noise. It sounded like the house sneezed. And I don't know what that was to this day. It wasn't like the heater kicking on. It wasn't, it wasn't anything like that. Because those are sounds that you hear them often enough that you know what certain things sound like. And this was just different. It just didn't sound like anything else other than that. So to this day, that's just kind of like a running joke between me and her. Like, houses don't sneeze. Did the house sneeze? So that's what we joke about that one a lot. It was still a little creepy, but I don't know. So what do you guys think of these stories? Have you ever had anything really crazy happen like that to you? Have you ever seen an angel? Have you ever seen a demon? Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe that people die and then get stuck somewhere and just haunt you? Just because I can't bring myself to believe that when I die, I could just get stuck and haunt someone. Like, I just don't want to believe that that's a possibility. I'm not doing very good today because the lighting is weird in here and this mirror that I'm using is weird. I normally do my makeup in a bathroom like a normal person. I add some mascara. And since I'm kind of done and out of ghost stories to tell right now because I've told a lot already, I figured I would just explain my t-shirt. It's Wee Day. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wee Day or not. But my daughter has been to Wee Day twice. I went with her once. But these were both in Chicago. And Wee Day is one of those things that you can't just buy a ticket and go. You have to earn it. Oops. You have to earn a ticket. And you earn tickets by doing something really good for your community or for your school, something like that. So when my daughter was in 7th grade, she earned it for being in student council. And so a handful of the student council kids got to go to Wee Day, and it's like a concert setting. You go to like a Coliseum type place, and they have lots of guest speakers that come and talk about lots of ways to help your community and listen to this story, listen to the great thing that this person did for this. Lots of really big name celebrities go to this and do this. I think the first one my daughter went to had like Sierra, the singer Sierra. It had Henry Winkler, Paula Abdul, lots of really cool people. And then they have celebrities come on and also sing and perform too while they're there. And the second time she went was when she was in 8th grade. And that time she went because she started her own club at school. And it was a club to help the community in a way that a lot of people forget to help the community. Like, a lot of people will, go and help a food bank. They might donate food or money for that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's great that people do that. It's just one of those things that a lot of people think of doing that. So, But my daughter was trying to help charities and things that don't get a lot of help. So one of them was, even though this homeless shelter place does get a lot of help, like they get a lot of food and things like that in there, the difference between what other people do and what she did was she asked for a list from the directors there of things that they don't ever get donated, things that people just don't think about donating to homeless people. And then she went out and bought all the things on the list. And I think one of the things that people don't, I guess, think about is products like tampons or pads for women. People don't always think about how black women's hair is a lot different than a white woman's hair. They never ever have the proper hair products for a black woman. She did stuff like that. Another thing she helped with, which was, I guess, one of the biggest things she wanted to do, because in our family, we're more cat people than dog people. We love dogs, but whenever you think about helping out animal shelters, you think dog. That's the first thing that comes to your mind. Cats get overlooked a lot. So she wanted to help out a cat rescue that they get overlooked all the time. So she didn't want to choose a big name place like a humane society. She wanted to choose a small place that deals with just cats. So she found one local, and she bought them all the things that they were needing a lot, that they run out of a lot, which is like cat food, cat litter, cat treats, cat toys, things like that. And then she also wrote them a check for $1,000 because she won a grant in order to help the community. That was a big story in itself. But she won a $2,000 grant. She bought all this stuff, and then she also wrote them a $1,000 check. So because of all this stuff that she did for the community, she earned another ticket to go to We Day in 8th grade. So I'm very proud of her for that. I really hope you guys enjoyed this kind of a video. I know it was kind of weird. It wasn't very structured. I didn't try to make it creepy in any way. I just sat here and told my stories. But I can promise you this. All of that is true. All of those things actually happened. If anyone's curious, for my eyeshadow, I used Shane's Conspiracy palette. This is not mine. This is my daughter's. So, oop, I forgot this was in my hair. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of these supernatural stories. I have more stories. Those are not even close to everything I've experienced in my life. Not even close. But I think those are some of the ones that maybe stood out the most in my mind for being creepy or whatever. It looks so different on the camera compared to my mirror. So don't judge. I'm used to doing this in my bathroom. It looks good in my mirror and it looks like crap on camera, but whatever. Anyway. This video is way too long, so I'm gonna cut it off here. Please give me your feedback. Let me know what you think of these stories. Have you ever captured something in a picture before? But let me know. I love hearing feedback about supernatural stuff, because everyone has their own opinions on it. I guess that would be it for today. Don't forget to hit the like button and hit subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.